October 22nd, 2013, 2:54 p.m. A high school bathroom in Danvers, Massachusetts. Security cameras capture a 24-year-old math teacher, Colleen Ritzer, walking down the hallway after helping students with algebra. She heads toward the restroom, unaware that a 14-year-old student is following close behind, his hood pulled up, gloves on his hands, a sharp object concealed in his pocket. In 11 minutes, this promising young educator's life would be stolen in one of the most shocking crimes to ever strike an American high school. What happens next would shake this historic Massachusetts town to its very core, revealing a level of premeditation and brutality that nobody could have expected from a freshman student. This is the story of Colleen Ritzer and the student who took everything from her. Colleen Ritzer was 24 years old, teaching 9th grade algebra at Danvers High School in her second year. Born in May 1989 in Lawrence, Massachusetts, she had always dreamed of becoming a teacher not for summer vacations, but to genuinely inspire and help students succeed. After graduating from Assumption College, she arrived at Danvers High in 2012, bringing infectious enthusiasm and creativity to her classroom. Her Twitter bio said it all: math teacher, often too excited about the topics I'm teaching, close with her family and passionate about education. Colleen was already beloved by students and colleagues alike. Her dedication to staying late and helping struggling students would ultimately seal her tragic fate. Tuesday, October 22nd, 2013, started like any other autumn day in Massachusetts. The wind rustled through falling leaves, pumpkins decorated front porches, and temperatures climbed to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Students buzzed with excitement about the upcoming Halloween festivities, and teachers had settled into the comfortable rhythm of the semester. Colleen had classes throughout the day, as per usual, until about 2:30 p.m. Then she planned to stay behind and spend extra time with a couple of students who needed help a leg up on their algebra assignments. This was typical Colleen, always going the extra mile. At 2:54 p.m., security cameras captured Colleen heading to the bathroom, and then, nothing. School finished up around 3 p.m., and about an hour later, at 4 p.m., after-school extracurricular activities kicked off: sports practices, club meetings, the usual bustle of high school life continuing after the final bell. But as the afternoon turned to evening, parents began to worry. Colleen's parents, Peggy and Tom Ritzer, couldn't get through to their daughter. Despite being 24 years old, Colleen still lived at home with her parents in Andover, close to Danvers. She should have been home from school by now. As the hours ticked by with no word from their daughter, concern turned to alarm. Tom drove over to Danvers High School. He spotted Colleen's car still sitting in the parking lot, untouched, undisturbed. He kicked the tires, walked around the school grounds, asking everyone he encountered, "Have you seen Colleen? Has anyone seen my daughter?" No. Nobody had seen her. They started calling Colleen's friends. Maybe she had gone out for drinks with colleagues, but nobody had heard from her. The calls went straight to voicemail. The texts remained unread. Finally, with darkness settling over Danvers and their daughter still missing, the Ritzers called the police and reported Colleen missing. Meanwhile, another parent was experiencing the exact same growing dread. After school, as extracurricular activities began, the soccer coach at Danvers High School noticed something. He was missing a player, 14-year-old Philip Chisholm. The fact that Philip wasn't there wasn't immediately alarming. It was more of a passing observation. He's not here. Philip had only been at Danvers High School for 2 months. He had arrived at the start of the semester from Tennessee, so he didn't have many friends. His teammates barely knew him. His absence was noted, but not particularly concerning. However, Philip's mother, Diana, was growing increasingly worried. She had no clue where her son was. He was supposed to come home after soccer practice. As the hours went by and her son, who had no real friends and was new to town, remained missing, Diana's concern escalated into panic. Diana was in the middle of a difficult divorce from Philip's father, which explained the move from Tennessee to Massachusetts. Philip was going through some incredibly rough times himself. It's never easy when your parents are going through an acrimonious divorce, and Philip hadn't wanted to move. He never wanted to leave Tennessee. He didn't like Danvers High School. He felt bullied and isolated. Generally, bad times all around for this 14-year-old kid. Philip wasn't answering his phone. Finally, at 6:34 p.m., Diana called the police and reported her 14-year-old son missing. The search was on. A couple of hours later, the school principal sent out an email to all staff and faculty. letting them know that a student was missing. Around the same time, the principal received a phone call saying that a teacher was also missing. If you think this is just a coincidence, think again. Colleen taught Philip mathematics. It was later reported that Colleen and Philip were seen together in her classroom that afternoon. Colleen was giving him extra help with his algebra. The fact that they were last seen together, and then they both went missing. Did they go missing together? The police focused on Philip first. He was 14 years old, a minor, and potentially vulnerable. They traced his phone to a movie theater in Danvers at 4:30 p.m. He had gone to see a film, Woody Allen's Blue Jasmine, and then he was gone. Did he run away? He had said he didn't want to be in Danvers. He hated it there. So, did he just stop being there? While patrol cars searched the streets of Danvers, officers began sifting through security footage at the high school to see what happened in the classroom between Colleen and Philip. They needed answers. They also physically searched the school building. And in the girls' bathroom, the one closest to the classroom where Colleen and Philip had been working, they found what looked like dark stains on the floor and walls. The investigation took a dark turn. Officers then started searching the school perimeter, among the dead leaves and barren trees. As autumn twilight settled over the campus, they found Colleen's purse. It was empty. No wallet, no money, no cards, nothing. But it was a clue, and the picture it painted was not leading toward a happy ending. Then, a couple of hours later, right around 3 a.m., the witching hour searchers made the discovery that would shatter this community forever. Under a pile of leaves behind the school, Colleen Ritzer was found. She had been killed. Colleen was found in a compromised state, covered in dirt and signs of trauma. The injuries to her upper body were particularly severe. Beside her body, investigators found a handwritten note that read, "I hate you all." A couple of yards away, they found a recycling bin and discarded gloves. It didn't take long to put two and two together when both Colleen and Philip were last seen together. And now one was missing, and one was deceased. Well, the conclusion seemed inevitable. By the time Colleen was found, Philip wasn't missing anymore. He had been found walking along the sidewalk around 2 hours earlier in Topsfield, a small village maybe 10 minutes away from Danvers. He was wearing his backpack, and after officers searched it, they found a cutting tool, items of woman's clothing, and Colleen's credit cards. Philip briefly said he had broken into her car and stolen the cards. But when investigators asked about the substance on the cutting tool, his response sent chills through everyone present. "It came from the girl," he said. Security footage from Danvers High School would reveal the chilling truth of what happened that day. When Colleen went to the bathroom at 2:54 p.m., Philip followed her, and he knew exactly what he was doing. Surveillance cameras captured him, putting his hood up and pulling on gloves. In his pocket was a box cutter. Think about that for a moment. This 14-year-old kid had brought a box cutter, gloves, a mask, and a change of clothing to school that morning. This wasn't a spontaneous act of violence. This was planned, calculated, premeditated. Philip walked into the girls' bathroom behind Colleen. They were in there for approximately 11 minutes. During that time, a female student actually entered the bathroom, but swiftly left after witnessing what she described as an exposed foot. She assumed someone was in there, changing clothes, and didn't want to intrude. If only she had known the horrific truth of what was really happening just feet away. After the attack, Philip left the bathroom and changed his clothing. Security footage shows him running around the school, at one point deliberately distracting a classmate who had come looking for him, leading that student away from the bathroom area. Then, at 3:14 p.m., 20 minutes after Colleen first entered that bathroom, cameras captured Philip wheeling a large recycling bin into the girls' restroom. What happens next is truly shocking. Philip, calm as can be, wheeled that bin with Colleen's body inside out of the school. He wasn't stopped. He wasn't questioned. He casually passed a fellow student walking his dog. Nobody suspected a thing. He then went into the woods behind the school. Security footage shows him returning 25 minutes later, having changed once again, this time into all-black clothing, and in a move that demonstrates the calculated nature of his actions. He actually returned to the scene of the crime in the bathroom, before finally leaving the school. From there, Philip went to see a movie, Blue Jasmine, as if nothing had happened. Afterward, he grabbed food and wandered around town until he was apprehended just after midnight. The details that emerged about what Philip did to Colleen Ritzer are among the most disturbing aspects of this case. When Philip entered the bathroom behind Colleen, he asphyxiated her, and attacked her repeatedly with the weapon. He then committed a serious assault against her in that bathroom. After placing her body in the recycling bin, he wheeled her out to the woods behind the school, as captured on those chilling security camera images, where he committed further acts of violence against her. The district attorney would later reveal that Colleen was likely still alive when Philip left her in those woods. She passed away from her injuries sometime later, alone in the darkness, before her body was discovered at 3 a.m. A 14-year-old high school freshman, a child, had committed one of the most brutal crimes that investigators had ever encountered. News of the murder sent shockwaves through Massachusetts and beyond. A 14-year-old high school student charged with killing his teacher? It seemed incomprehensible. Philip Chisholm was ordered held without bail at his murder arraignment in adult court in Salem. Police had found forensic evidence in the second-floor school bathroom and located Colleen's body in the woods shortly after midnight on October 23rd. Approximately 1,000 people attended Colleen's funeral, a testament to how many lives she had touched in her brief 24 years. Students, teachers, family members, and community members came together to mourn a young woman whose only crime was wanting to help her students succeed. As investigators pieced together what happened, a disturbing picture emerged. A student who had been in the classroom with Philip and Colleen that afternoon reported that during their conversation, Colleen had happened to mention Tennessee. This apparently upset Philip greatly, the student could tell. It made him visibly angry. Philip would later claim that Colleen simply mentioning Tennessee, a painful reminder of the home and life he had been forced to leave, drove him to take her life. He tried to blame Colleen for what happened to her, but this was obviously a lie. Remember, Philip had brought a box cutter, gloves, a mask, and a change of clothes to school that morning. He had planned this. He was looking for an excuse, any excuse, to justify what he intended to do. What kind of trigger was he actually seeking? Students who knew Philip expressed shock. "I was really shocked that it was him," one classmate said. "I wouldn't suspect it at all. People say it's always the quiet ones, though. Maybe he had troubles at home or something. But he was nice, so I didn't suspect it that much." Philip Chisholm was indicted on charges of murder, robbery, and aggravated assault. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. But the violence didn't stop with Colleen's murder. While awaiting trial in a youth detention facility, Philip attacked a female staff member with a sharpened pencil in an assault eerily similar to his attack on Colleen. Surveillance video from the detention center showed Philip following the woman into a staff locker room, carrying what appeared to be a pencil. The woman reported that Philip came at her and began choking her. As she screamed for help, he started punching her. Within seconds, other staff members rushed in and restrained Philip. The woman was not seriously injured, but the attack revealed something chilling. This wasn't an isolated incident triggered by stress or a specific reminder of Tennessee. Philip Chisholm had a pattern of violence against women, particularly women in positions of authority. This attack would play a crucial role in the prosecution's case, demonstrating that Philip's violence wasn't a one-time psychotic break, but rather an indication of deeper, more dangerous pathologies. Mental illness or calculated violence. Philip Chisholm was tried as an adult in Salem in 2015 due to the horrific nature of his crimes. The defense strategy centered on mental illness. Philip's attorneys argued that he was in the throes of psychosis and wasn't responsible for his actions. They claimed he had been triggered by Colleen mentioning Tennessee, a painful reminder of everything he had lost. The defense painted a picture of a child under tremendous stress. When Philip started at Danvers High School, he had lost his entire support system. He was separated from his best friend, his soccer coach, and the close-knit community in Clarksville, Tennessee. He arrived in Danvers knowing practically no one and had to navigate the social and emotional demands of being a freshman in high school while dealing with his parents' acrimonious divorce. The real work of this case, the defense argued, is to figure out the terrible landscape of a young boy's mind. They admitted that something was clearly wrong with Philip Chisholm. How could they deny it given what he had done? But they argued this child had killed Colleen horrifically because he was mentally ill, triggered by a simple word that brought back painful memories. "Let's be clear," the defense continued. "He didn't have a good plan for getting away with this. He's 14 years old. Not a lot of long-term thinking. He had accomplished the one thing he really wanted to accomplish in those woods." The prosecution, however, told a very different story. "I am not going to stand here and tell you there is nothing wrong with Philip Chisholm," the prosecutor acknowledged. "How could I? But I am going to submit that there is overwhelming evidence in this case, beyond any reasonable doubt, that Philip Chisholm was not suffering from a mental disease or defect on October 22, 2013. Philip Chisholm knew right from wrong and could choose right from wrong. He did it repeatedly over the course of that afternoon. He just didn't do it when it mattered. The prosecution argued that Philip had planned everything carefully. The evidence was irrefutable. He brought weapons and supplies to school. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was an angry person who wanted to lash out, and he chose Colleen Ritzer as his target. Experts who evaluated Philip determined that any mental illness he claimed to have was either fabricated or greatly exaggerated. There were no real warning signs in Philip's past beyond the trauma of his parents' divorce. Nothing had ever been identified that would cause him to commit such horrific acts. A psychologist concluded that Philip was faking his mental illness, or at the very least, faking the extent of it. The prosecution drove their point home with devastating clarity. He had a goal, a terrible, terrible purpose, and he played it out in those woods. And he didn't care what came after that. This was Colleen Ritzer, the prosecutor said, displaying photos of the vibrant young teacher. This is Colleen Ritzer. This is the Colleen Ritzer who was alone in that bathroom and in those woods with Philip Chisholm. Not a mentally ill child, not someone powerless to voices in his head. The only person powerless in that bathroom, in those woods, was Colleen Ritzer. The jury found Philip Chisholm guilty of what is truly one of the most disturbing crimes imaginable, especially from someone so young. The judge's words at sentencing captured the gravity and tragedy of the case. The defendant was quiet, polite, athletic, and had no prior criminal record. Then, on October 22, 2013, he carefully and deliberately prepared to kill his math teacher. He viciously, brutally, and senselessly attacked Colleen in the girls' bathroom, and that he was criminally responsible for her murder. The court will impose a sentence in this case without emotion, passion, sympathy, or pity. No amount of prison time would ever be enough to be commensurate with this crime, and no math will ever erase the reality that this crime was committed by a 14-year-old boy. Philip Chisholm was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years, the maximum allowed under Massachusetts law for a juvenile offender. He also received 2 concurrent 40-year sentences for the assault and robbery charges. This court will impose the mandatory life sentence for the murder of Colleen Ritzer and set a parole eligibility date of 25 years, the highest level our law allows, the judge declared. This court will impose a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the assault of Colleen Ritzer and a concurrent sentence of 40 years to 40 years and 1 day for the armed robbery. He will not be getting out anytime soon. This case remains horrific, definitely among the most disturbing crimes in recent Massachusetts history. Colleen Ritzer seemed like such a beautiful spirit. Even now, you can visit her Twitter account, still preserved online, where she shared math problems and games with her students, always trying to excite and inspire people about algebra. To be fair, she had her work cut out for her, making math exciting, but she genuinely tried. Her memory has not been forgotten. The Colleen Ritzer Memorial Scholarship was established to support students pursuing careers in education. Her family created the Kindness for Colleen movement, encouraging acts of kindness and support for educators. As for Philip Chisholm, the violence he committed, the premeditation involved, the attack on the female staff member while in custody, all point to something deeply disturbing. This was serial killer type behavior from a 14-year-old child. One can only imagine what he might have become capable of if he had remained free. The fact that he committed these acts at such a young age raises troubling questions about nature versus nurture, about warning signs we might have missed, about whether monsters are born or made. On that autumn day in 2013, in the quiet suburb of Danvers, Massachusetts, something truly evil emerged. A teacher who wanted nothing more than to help her students was brutally taken by one of those very students she was trying to support. Colleen Ritzer's final act was staying late to help Philip Chisholm with his algebra, an act of kindness and dedication that cost her everything. Her murder serves as a stark reminder that evil can emerge from the most unexpected places, that danger can lurk behind the quietest facades, and that sometimes the people we try hardest to help are the ones who hurt us most. What a dark day it was in Massachusetts that October, and what a tragic loss of a brilliant young educator whose only crime was caring too much. Rest in peace, Colin Richter. Your students, your family, and your community will never forget you.